States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, community, and welcome to the Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, regular business meeting of the Radnor Township School District School Board. I'd like to announce that Dr. Babson has an excused absence, that's why he's not up here on the dais, and Mr. Moore is joining us remotely. Good evening, Mr. Moore. And from there, I would like to report on executive session. The board met in executive session on the following dates to discuss the noted topics. Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, personnel. Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, personnel, and Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, legal and personnel. And that will take us now to the part of the agenda where we welcome our students to give us their report. So Sophie and Nico, please come up, and it's nice to see you both.
Hey, well, good evening, everyone. Happy spring. I'm so delighted to be back in this building today because I haven't been here since November, but glad to be back. The recent warm weather has brought everyone's mood up, and the thought of spring break next week excites us all. March is often the most jam-packed month of the school year, filled with many new and exciting events. A few weeks ago, the high school celebrated International Language Week. Some of the languages included Greek, French, Spanish, and more. On March 8th, however, all of the language clubs and multicultural clubs came together for the annual potluck. This year, it was during a lunch and learn. Foods from Iran, India, France, Mexico, and more were served. To say the least, everyone left stuffed. Radnor's academic quiz competition team, High Q, wrapped up its season earlier this month with a trip to the championship. Under the leadership of captains Caroline Monahan and Josh Lay, the team finished the regular season in third place, hosted and won its playoff match, and finished in second place in the championship. The team wishes to thank the RHS administration for packing the auditorium with cheering students for home meets and is looking forward to their season with a talented roster of competitors returning for senior year. Although their time has also come to an end, Radnor's Model UN team ended this year strong with the Best Delegation Award at the Philadelphia Model United Nations Conference and the Award of Excellence at the National High School Model United Nations Conference in New York. Unlike conference past, the National High School Model United Nations features schools from all around the world, ranging from Brazil to Italy and even China. Besides making new friends from all over the globe, the team participated in committees where they represented Australia. The highlights of the season came on the last day in New York, where, as a recognition of their skills in debate and diplomacy, 7 RHS students spoke on the floor of the United Nations headquarters, recounting the work of their committees. Another March favorite is the musical. This year, as you all know, the musical was Footloose, as you saw last meeting. They performed a multitude of songs like Let's Hear It for the Boy, Holding Out for a Hero, Almost Paradise, and more. The dancing and singing surely did not disappoint, and even Kevin Bacon said that the cast was amazing. The cast and crew also honored Dr. Glennie, the music director, who will retire later this year. All in all, the show was amazing, and I can't wait to see what the theater department does in the upcoming months with things like their spring improv show. It's also finally that time of year again for spring sports. The newly renovated fields have been put to good use for both the boys and girls lacrosse teams starting their seasons. After 2 amazing seasons of back-to-back championships, the boys have high hopes for this season. Their first official match was on March 27th against Episcopal. Unfortunately, the team lost in a close game of 7-8. However, their season has only just started, and they already have a game today, actually. The girls, however, brought home what I would call a win in their first game against Downingtown East. They ended with a tie of 9-9 in a close and well-fought game. They actually just played a game this afternoon, so hopefully when I get off of this meeting and I go to check the score, I can see that they won. While their season continues for multiple months, the Ultimate Frisbee teams have also continued their seasons back on Lupin Creek with practice every night. While the girls have their first official match after the break, the boys have already begun their season. The team played LM a few weeks ago, but unfortunately lost. However, they were able to compete last weekend in Haverford High School's Huck Fest, which brings together Philadelphia area Ultimate Frisbee teams. There's a lot more to come for both teams, and as someone who does play Ultimate Frisbee, it is so nice to see so many new faces this year. As always, we thank you so much for your time, and now I'll hand it over to Nico.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a good night. Thank you, Sophie. So as Sophie already mentioned, it is almost spring break, which gives our students a much-needed chance to relax and spend time with friends and family. I know that I will definitely be enjoying some time with my family and just decompressing. And March has certainly been an exciting month, and I'm happy to share some of the highlights with you here today. So earlier this month, a district title game saw 4,000 fans pack the stands as the undefeated Radnor Raptors faced the Unionville Longhorns. Radnor emerged victorious with a 61-36 win, later defeating Warwick in the PIA state tournament's first round thanks to Jackson Hickey's 30-point performance. In the second round, Danny Rosenblum and Cooper Mueller led the Raptors past West Philadelphia High School 75-61. Finally, Radnor played Archbishop Ryan on March 17th at Ben Salem High School, their first district title in 62 years. Unfortunately, we lost in a close game, but although their season didn't have a perfect ending, nonetheless, they gave it their shot, and they got pretty far, putting in the effort and working hard. On a brighter note, Sophomore Semi was this Sunday. The Sophomore Semi dance was a highly anticipated event that took place on Saturday evening. The venue was beautifully decorated with lights and streamers, creating a festive atmosphere that set the tone for the night of dancing and fun. The doors opened promptly at 7:30 p.m., and then students arrived dressed in their finest attire, ready to have a good time. The DJ played all the most popular songs. The dance floor quickly filled up with enthusiastic students who danced the night away. Unfortunately, the fun ended at 9:30. Overall, the sophomore semi-dance was a great success, with everyone leaving with a smile on their face, looking forward to the next school dance. The 2022 to 2023 squash season came to an exciting end at Nationals last weekend, where the boys and girls varsity teams showed great sportsmanship, dedication, and skill. The boys varsity team, despite being the underdogs, performed exceptionally well throughout the season, outperforming their seedings and giving tough competition to their opponents. They sadly lost their first two matches. However, the team didn't give up and went on to win their third match with a score of 5-2. Their final match was another close call with a score of 4-3, but they managed to finish third to last and make their school proud. The girls' varsity team was a historical moment for Radnor Squash, as they were the first ever Radnor girls' varsity nationals team. Despite being seeded last, the girls gave it their all and exceeded expectations. The team faced several challenges with two players, including their captain, out due to sickness, but that didn't stop them from earning the first Radnor girls varsity nationals win. The team faced tough competition but finished in fourth place, making history for their school and team. The coaches and players put in a tremendous amount of effort and hard work throughout the season, which certainly paid off in the end. I'm certainly looking ahead to next year's season. There is no doubt that it will be just as eventful and filled with opportunities for Radnor squash teams to shine. Overall, the month of March has been full of exciting events and competition when the students will be taking some much-needed time off. After all, sometimes the best need some rest. That's it. Thank you so much.
Nico. Even the rhyme in the report, that's pretty cool, especially for your second outing as a student rep. So thank you, Sophie and Nico. Great job on the student report. There are always so many things to celebrate about our students, and we'll have another one today when we get to the recognition. But for the time being, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Batchelor, where he can give his report.
So good evening. Good to see everyone and our students and parents joining us from our middle school Gateways program. We'll be with you in a moment for your recognition. Unfortunately, I have to sit through the superintendent's remarks, so I'll try to keep it quick, but there's some good news in here too for you. The first slide, potential change to the 2023 calendar. And it's very difficult with all these 2x4s for me to see the screen, but we want to just let our families be aware that in April we will be adjusting our school calendar. This school year we had 3 built-in snow days. We didn't use any of those snow days this year. We didn't even use them for virtual days. So with those 3 built-in days, we do every year, we look at how many of those days we've used. In April, we'll be discussing at our curriculum committee meeting, school board, and then we'll be approving the adjusted calendar in April. We, knock on wood, I think it's pretty safe to say right now, we haven't used the days and we're not anticipating using those days moving forward. So that's to come. Also next, I wanted to share just that our special education plan is available and for review. I want to thank our Student Services Department, the members of the community and staff that have participated in the development of our special education plan. We are required by state regulation every 3 years to update and review our special education plan. And that has involved, as I said, many stakeholders. That plan is now available for review both on our website and in our district office. We will be bringing that forward next month to our school board for approval. And then I want to give a little staff spotlight. We want to congratulate Mr. Brian Pauling, our business administrator, for being elected to the vice president of the PA Association of School Business Officials. Brian has a 4-year term that I think involves not only the vice presidency, but the presidency coming up. It's been really difficult. All of us administrators have had to call him Mr. VP lately in the district office. So, no, Brian would never do that. We've been having fun, but we just want to congratulate Brian and thank him. Your expertise in the field of business administration, we knew it when you came here to Radnor, and the entire state recognizes it as well with this recent appointment to this organization. So thank you for all your efforts and all you do, and congratulations. And then I want to mention a personnel change. We're very excited that Mrs. Kevgis will be joining the district office as the assistant director, both for teaching and learning and student services, reporting to both those departments. We want to thank Mrs. Kevgis for all her service as principal. She still will remain as our principal as we conduct a search, and we will begin that search beginning this week, and then she'll officially move to her new position once we hire our next high school principal. There's also additional information that we will be sharing with our community in the coming days. We will be setting up focus groups for specifically high school, and we'll invite middle school parents as well to, sit with us, share with us the qualities you're looking for in our next principal. We then will set up an interview committee. We will have parent and staff volunteers as part of that committee as we move forward. So more information to come. And then, yes, as Sophia and Nico talked about all the different activities happening in our community, it has been musical month, and it is an exciting time in Radnor when we have the musicals happening at every level, between elementary, middle school, and high school. So it's been a busy month, and I want to just congratulate all those students, and not just the students who we see on stage, but there are so many students that are involved behind the scenes, backstage, whether it comes to sound, lighting. There is so much that goes in, and so much parent support. So I want to thank the parents as well for all of their support. And to the kids who are involved, I know it's exhausting. At every level, talking to the students involved, it's a lot of time and commitment that they put into the musicals, and it's something that all of us in the community are able to enjoy. So just congratulations to all our students involved in the musicals. And then, yes, as our students also mentioned, spring sports. I especially, as a former principal myself, it's the start of spring sports and the musicals. All of a sudden, everything speeds up, I feel like. February, March moves slowly sometimes in a school district, and everything begins to go so fast right now towards the end of the school year. So we're excited not only to see the athletic season, the spring sports kick off, and winter seasons wrap up, but we've also been excited to see, going back to that last slide for a minute, just all the use of the track and our facilities, and we're hoping that you can see there's some pictures we snuck in there of the new fitness room at the high school, and we're hoping any day now that our students will be able to start using that space. And then our upcoming events, just for the school board and community. As I said, it's a busy time of year. It's always a busy time of year. Just a listing of some of the events that are coming up, through March and April. And that concludes my remarks, except for one other item I do want to mention. For the school board. Tonight we have an item on the agenda. It's Agenda 1402, and it is the recommendation for the naming of our high school road. The administration is going to recommend that we pull that for tonight and that we come back and discuss that next month. at our facilities committee meeting. Our rationale for that is that we just had a very lengthy discussion at our facilities meeting about our spirit gallery and recognizing alumni. And we're really excited about how the Spirit Gallery and the opportunities we have at our high school to recognize, past students, current students, and as we recognize our alumni, we want to also look to how do we recognize our alumni also with our streets, with the namings, and look at this more broadly. So we are looking to change the name of our street, and we'll go back and discuss some options as we move forward next month at our facilities meeting, and we'll continue that discussion. But I want to thank the high school administration for all their work they're doing to identify the Spirit Gallery and help us move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Batchelor. And with that, we're going to move into tonight's recognition, which will be presided over by Ms. Monahan and Ms. Duffy.
It's going to be a tag team effort. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Students in Radnor Middle School 8th grade integrated program Gateways won the Best Coordination of Engineering Disciplines Award, Best Civil Engineering Award, and the Planning Excellence Award at the 28th Annual Future Cities Philadelphia Regional Competition on January 21, 2023. 35 area schools participated in this year's event held at Delaware County Community College. All 40 Gateway students, supported by their teacher, Ms. Darcy DiGiacomo and Mr. Stephen Smolin, created a professional resume and were interviewed by building and district administrators in September to apply for specific roles, positions needed for the competition. Students were part of the essay presentation team, virtual design team, and graphic art design team, and could also participate as project managers and independent contractors. The teams collaborated to create a 1,500-word essay, a 7-minute presentation, and a physical model of their city of Aruna. Teams chose a specific aspect of climate change to focus on and created a city that would be more resilient 100 years in the future. Future City is a project-based learning program where middle school students imagine, research, design, and build cities of the future. Each year, participating teams are given a specific problem and must create a futuristic city that addresses the issue.
Okay, we also want to congratulate the Gateways team that finished second overall at the Greater Philadelphia Sea Perch Challenge. They received top scores in the technical design report, team presentation, pool mission, and pool obstacle course. The Radnor Township School District would like to recognize the following Gateway students for their outstanding achievements. There are a lot of you, and we appreciate you all joining us tonight. I am the lucky one who is going to be able to pronounce all of your names, and I'm going to do it perfectly. So anyway, I would like, as I call your name, to please come up and stand behind us, and Ms. Duffy will hand you your certificate. Noel Abel, Benis I'm so sorry, Antonavicius, okay, Suchin Bhatia, Nicholas Bowers, Gavin Boyle, Alexander Bradley, Sarah Brown, Carlos Cibollera, Harper Church, Alex Cece. Why don't you stay on up behind us?
Okay.
Orla Dill, Gabriela Un, or Gabby Un, Unica Fernandez, Gracie Gill, Peyton Hedrick Thompson, Naya Kudikam, Mayor Khalid, Grace Kimlinger, Kohei Carino, Jacob Kwan, Evan Landau, Usman Manzoor, Sai Matsumoto, Natalie Miriam, Kirthi Midi, Sam Nat, Yuki Wen, Nazif Nishad, Samuel Pasles, Dante Pascarella, Leanna Pearson, Mason Piskin, Whitney Schisler, Michael Stassen, Belle Stecker, Sophia Tague, Coven Thopper, Andrew Wang, James Wang, and Jet Workington. I have a greater appreciation for graduation at the high school. Well, I would like to congratulate this group of very intelligent individuals from the Gateway program. Congratulations. And we are going to do some photographs, right?
I want to just make sure we didn't miss anyone. We didn't miss any students,
Did we miss anyone? No?
We got everybody? Good. Thank you.
Got it? Can the teachers please come up as well and we can get your photos?
Well done, students and teachers. Thank you very much for coming out tonight and giving us the privilege to be able to recognize you for your great work. And for those students who weren't able to attend, we're thinking of you as well and want to recognize your work. So thank you all. You're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting if you have nothing better to do tonight. And if you do, we won't be offended. But congratulations again. It was good to see you all. All right, and with that, we will move to the next section of our agenda, which is public comment. As per Board Policy 6, the board provides an opportunity at each regular board meeting for eligible participants to comment on matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before the board. Public comment can be made either in person or by telephone recording when circumstances prevent a community member from attending the board meeting. For details on how to make public comment by telephone recording, please visit rtsd.org/board. Public commenters should state their full name and town and may make one comment per public comment period for no more than 4 minutes per comment. Administration will respond to general questions raised during public comment sometime after the meeting. Parents and guardians with specific questions or comments about their child's educational experience are encouraged to contact their child's teacher and/or building principal. Do we have any public comment in the room this evening? Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Bajukis.
Hi, Jeff Bajukis, Wayne, Pennsylvania. So I'd just like to speak for a moment on the consent matter that was removed from the agenda today, just so you all can kind of put this in the back of your head as you're considering this. I thought the suggestion had the unwavering support of the administration, but I guess that may not be entirely true. So I think maybe I'd talk a little bit about Emlyn Tennell for those of you who don't know who he is, or maybe have just seen the statue out front and seen a couple of articles here and there. I did hear some rumblings about the choice, the selection to use that name for the street out in front of the athletic fields, and I guess it would wrap around that maybe, Mr. Tennell's had enough recognition. He's already got a statue. Why are we naming a road for another athletic player? And what's really special about him that would justify recognizing him? I'm not attributing that to anybody sitting here, but that's what I've heard, and that's what figure that may be some of the questions. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about Emlyn Tennell. This is a unique opportunity for all of you to recognize an alum, to do justice to history, and to recognize the community that gave birth to Emlyn Tennell and sent him off into the world. And really, his career and his life demonstrates what a special place Radnor, and specifically Radnor High School, was for someone who was an African American in a time we all recognize in this country wasn't always given the same opportunities that everybody else was given outside of Radnor. Don't do this because Tennell was one of the greatest football players to ever play. Don't do it because he was the first African American to put on a uniform for the New York Giants. Don't do it because he was the very first African American voted into the Football Hall of Fame. And don't do it because he was the first African American coach full-time for an NFL football team. Do it because he was an uncommon, brave pioneer who was taught by this community, and Radnor High School specifically, that it's about your character and not the color of your skin. And that's what's going to make you successful. Do it because despite this wealth of athletic talent that he demonstrated here in Radnor, he decided at the age of 19 to volunteer to go into military service. And he was turned away. He was turned away by the Army and the Navy because he had broken his back playing football for Toledo, and he was not physically capable of being in the Army or the Navy. But that didn't stop him. He enlisted in the Coast Guard. So don't do this because of his football prowess. Do it because while in the Coast Guard, his boat was struck by a torpedo, engulfed in flames, and he ran across the deck of that boat and saved one of his shipmates, putting out this man on fire with his bare hands and suffering significant burns himself. Do it because 2 years later, he was confronted again when one of his shipmates fell overboard in 32-degree water, and he threw himself into the water. I believe it was his sister, later remarked he wasn't that good a swimmer either. And he rescued that man when everybody else watched. Do it because not only was he the first African-American player for the New York Giants, but he had the courage to walk out of his house in Garrett Hill with $1 in his pocket and literally hitchhike to New York to ask for a tryout with the New York Giants when he knew there had never been an African-American player for the Giants. Indulge for a moment. Am I allowed to get indulgence, or I'm done?
Mr. Bajukis, it's all great stuff, and you are welcome to submit it. A few more seconds, just in fairness to anybody else we have a 4-minute limitation.
So the last thing I'd say is, do it because he never forgot Radnor. In 1957, when the Radnor football team beat Lower Merion, he came back and celebrated with that team, even though he's one of the greatest football players in the NFL. When Ethel Enke retired in 1972, he came back to celebrate her time at Radnor and was the keynote speaker. Every summer he came back, and on the field that's named after him, right outside his humble house in Garrett Hill, he played, practiced, and trained with the neighborhood kids and all the boys that he grew up with, black and white. Didn't matter to him. He's a special person, and if one child punches into their phone that they're probably going to be looking at on that road the name Emlyn Tennell and learns any of that, that would be of value to the school district and to this community. Let's not overthink it. There's plenty of places to honor, but this is a special thing. And let's not get tied up in trying to figure out whether or not it fits perfectly in an overall plan to make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
indulgence.
Mr. Bajukas.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your comment. Is there anybody else who has any public comment this evening? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Massimino. I'm in Villanova, and I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed wall that representing the Friends of Radnor Lacrosse, which is a nonprofit group that we've raised funds to build a lacrosse wall ball at the high school in honor of Peter Sampson. So I had some people with me here tonight, but they had to go to the boys' game, so they weren't able to stay. But we just wanted to say that we are trying to get approvals for it. I've been working closely with Bill Dolan for like the last 2.5 years when this whole project started at the high school, thinking we could do it all in one swoop. And then that got crazy with all the construction and so forth and issues. So now that that's being completed, we're kind of back in the, in front to have it placed on the back of the field. We feel it's a really good community thing. We just got an email from Mike Friel saying that the youth programs are not allowed to use the new facility built for wall balls to practice your lacrosse and throw the ball back and forth and get better at catching and all that stuff. And he said we're not allowed to use those walls. So I guess kids are now trying to use those walls because there's nowhere to go do this. So we find that the wall is really in a great need. To have Peter's name on it would be really important. I think that's all. I don't know if there's anything else I missed. It would be donated by us 100%. The cost of the wall is probably going to be about $50,000 by the time we're said and done, and dig footers and all that. And it's going to be completely covered by the community. So, and we know soccer will use it as well as lacrosse. So we just wanted to put that in your heads that it's coming to a front. We just got our sketch, and we're going to go get our permits, and we're hoping that we can get approved.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Ms. Massimino. Duly noted. Is there any other public comment in the room this evening? Is there any recorded public comment, Ms. Brennan? No? Okay. Thank you. Then we'll move into our reports from board committees, and we'll start with the Curriculum Committee. Dr. Babson, who's the chair, is not here with us tonight, so Ms. Dunn, as vice chair, is going to fill in with the report.
Good evening. Yes, the Curriculum Committee met last Tuesday, March 21st, and we had a very busy meeting. We had an update on student technology, the one-to-one devices, particularly in the high school. We had an update on special ed. We approved some affiliation, we approved to come to full board for approval some affiliation agreements. And then we also had an update on our K-8 math curriculum. The Teaching and Learning Department has been looking at a number of different programs. The Math and Focus program is changing. It may still be Math and Focus, but the existing curriculum is no longer going to be supported by the publisher. So they're taking this opportunity to look at new curriculum for the K-8 program, and we'll hear more about that next month. We had a lengthy discussion about the Family and Consumer Sciences audit that was conducted, and we gave kudos to that group for the detail and effort that they really put into that, and suggested that going forward, other groups conducting audits, or actually this district as a whole, especially at the high school, conduct surveys at the end of each semester of the students so that they have a running set of feedback as opposed to waiting just to the audit years. And the final issue, which is on the consent agenda tonight and has been heavily talked about in curriculum, is the 2024-2025 school instructional calendar. We are not, we've already approved next year's school year, so this would be the following year. And the committee has been working with the administration to look for ways to improve that. The last round of reviews, there were three different calendars. One, the first two both had a holiday. The primary issues were they both had spring break right before Easter, as we currently do, but in 2024-25, Easter falls particularly late, and we have concerns about the length of time that leaves students and teachers without any kind of break. And so there was a request to look at moving the timeline up for spring break. That was version C that we had kind of landed on. And then in the last meeting, based on some feedback from the community, the request came in and the administration presented version D. So version D, and I encourage people to look on the website because I'm not going to go through all the detail, but we incorporate a lot more different religious holidays as we do for next year's calendar to try and honor our spirit of inclusion and making everyone who lives in this community feel like they belong. We also, in version D, have the spring break occurring earlier. We continue to give Good Friday off, and the difference between C and D is primarily that we also give off the Monday after that, recognizing that people may travel over that weekend and allowing for a 4-day weekend. The committee did raise some concerns for people who are wondering that a lot of our teachers may live in surrounding communities that have a different school calendar and may not have spring break at the same time. We're hoping that this far in advance, other districts have the opportunity to follow suit if they'd like to try this approach, but also that families and teachers will have an opportunity to plan for that. And the way that we were able to accommodate an extra day off, we had to make sure we had enough hours in our high school calendar, so we will be asking our high school students that year, and only the high school students, to come in on, well, not to come in, to attend school virtually on election day that year. And so that will give us as a district an opportunity to see how that virtual day, as a fill-in once in a while fits for the high school, but also to give people that 4-day weekend and really kind of pace our time off and giving children and teachers a chance to kind of regroup throughout the spring. I know that's a really long summary, but I hope it's helpful for those of you who didn't get a chance to go back and watch the curriculum committee. Oh, and just so we're clear, the committee actually did not come to consensus about which calendar we each preferred. And one of the committee members said, administration, why don't you tell the board what you would most prefer, since we all seemed relatively happy with 2 or 3 of them. We didn't feel we needed to dictate, and we thought it was better to come to the full board, and if the board wanted to discuss it, somebody could pull it from the consent agenda. So D is the one that has been proposed.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Very helpful. And that takes us to the Facilities Committee report, and Chair Ms. Monahan will give that report.
So the Facilities Committee met on March 21st. At the meeting, we were provided with 3 updates on building the new Iven, the Radnor High School Accessibility and Wellness Project, and the Radnor High School Spirit Gallery. On consent agenda this evening, 11.02, which is a contract with ELA Group for professional and land planning services for the new Iven, and 14.01, which is a level 2 change order for the Accessibility and Wellness Project. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 11th.
Thank you, Ms. Monahan. And that'll bring us to the Finance Committee report. Mr. Moore, you're up. Mr. Moore, can you hear me? Dr. Hand, do we know if Mr. Moore can hear us? He was here in the beginning of the meeting. Oh, there we go. Knew there was some technical support available somewhere in the building. Thank you very much. Ian?
Do you need me to keep ad-libbing about the curriculum meeting?
I'd say if anybody's listening on the radio, I'll do a little play-by-play color here. We are having a little technical adjustment, so stand by in case you're wondering what's going on. Yeah, we could go on to the next one while we wait. That's a good idea. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Let's move then to policy. We can come back to finance. Ms. Duffy.
The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, March 14th at the Administration Building. We had a pretty speedy meeting. The committee moved 3 policies forward for a second read. They were 706, property records, and 706.1, disposal of books, equipment, and supplies. We also moved 2 policies forward for a first read. Oh, I'm sorry, there were 3 policies, and I missed 622 was capital asset management. Then we also moved 2 policies for a first read. They were 704 maintenance and 716 integrated pest management. These 5 policies are on tonight's consent agenda. The next meeting is scheduled for April 11th.
Thank you, Ms. Duffy. And we'll go to Government Relations and Communications, Mr. Jubileer.
Yes, Government Relations and Communications met on March 14th, where we had a quick sort of recap of a lot of positive publicity generated by our communications department around some of the wonderful things happening on and off our athletic fields with Minithon, our basketball team, and more. We had a very extensive legislative update with the General Assembly coming back into session, the governor's budget address, and the now ongoing budgetary meetings and changes in the leadership in the State House of Representatives. We are looking forward to our annual legislative breakfast coming up on April 13th. We also had a PSBA update and want to note that Advocacy Day is coming up on April 18th. It is virtual, and all of us should have received more information about that. If not, please let me know. Registration closes on April 7th, and we should learn about some of the meeting opportunities that our district will have with our representatives in Harrisburg. Other than that, our next meeting is scheduled not for next month. We're going to have our legislative breakfast not in lieu, but we're not having a meeting. We're going to be meeting next on May 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Jubileer. And we're going to see, Mr. Moore, are we connected now?
Good evening. Can you hear me, Mrs. Goldman?
Loud and clear. It's all yours.
All right.
Take it away for the Finance Committee.
Thank you. The Finance Committee meeting met at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 21st. I'll direct my fellow board members to 3 priority discussion items under Section 8 of our agenda. We are being asked to approve the budgets for both DCIU, General Operating Budget, and the Delaware County Technical Schools Program. In addition, a 3rd priority action item is the approval of an appointment of a trustee to the Delaware County Community College. Under Section 11 of the agenda, you can also see consent items related to contracts and the usual reports and disposals. In addition, the committee discussed a settlement agreement, although I do not see that on the agenda for this evening. Finally, our business administrator presented an update to the budget presentation that was originally given on February 7th. Some updates to that presentation are that we have heard that the governor has a budget proposal. We do not know how much of that proposal will go forward, but based on that proposal, the administration has decided to estimate that about half of it could be added to our budget of about $193,000. In addition, there is a lower expenditure for electricity, which is good news, of $169,000. On the bad news sides of things, since February 7th, we've seen that prescription drug costs could be higher in the amount of $548,000 or so. And so that is a net of a deficit of $185,000 compared to what was presented on February 7th. To balance the budget as presented on February 7th, a millage increase of 3.09% was recommended by the administration. To balance the budget with that new deficit, it would be 3.35%. However, it certainly would be an option for the district to consider using fund balance to close some of that deficit. Finally, the administration also presented some options in light of the fact that we have capital projects that are impending to have a higher millage increase in order to invest in our capital reserve fund, and we are expected to have a further budget update at the next Finance Committee meeting, which is currently scheduled for April 11th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. All right, and as Mr. Moore forecast for us, we are moving into our priority discussion and action items, which begins with the agenda item 8.01, which is a request to approve the Delaware County Intermediate Unit General Operating Budget for 2023-2024. The recommended action is that the board approves the Delaware County Intermediate Unit General Operating Budget for 2023-2024 in the amount of $10,320,579, with Radnor Township School District's share also approved in the amount of $79,567.01. At the March 21st, 2023 Finance Committee meeting, as Mr. Moore said, administration was given direction to recommend for approval this annual budget for the operation of the Delaware County Intermediate Unit for the 2023-2024 fiscal year in the amount, again, of $10,320,579, with our district's portion for 2023-24 being $79,567.01. The intermediate unit budget must be considered and approved by each local board at a regular or special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Duffy. Are there any comments or questions? All right, then, Mr. Pauling, would you lead us through the roll call vote for this, please?
Yes, thank you. I will note that Dr. Babson is absent and will preclude him from the rest of the roll call votes for the evening. So we'll start with Ms. Duffy.
Yes.
Ms. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Jubileer?
Aye.
Ms. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Solomon?
I abstain from this vote.
And Ms. Stern?
Aye.
Okay, 7 affirmative, 1 absent, and 1 abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Pauling, and thank you, Board. That will move us into the next agenda item, 8.02, which is a request to approve the Delaware County Technical Schools Program Budget Summary for 2023-2024. The recommended action is that the Board approves the Delaware County Technical School Program Budget for 2023-2024 in the amount of $15,984,699, with Radnor Township School District's portion being $281,045 for the Aston Fullcroft Half-Day Program and $12,862 for the Special Education Technical Program, for a total budgeted amount of $293,907. Again, as Mr. Moore said, at the March 21st, 2023 Finance Committee meeting, administration was given direction to recommend the approval of the 2023-2024 Delaware County Technical School Program budget, again in the amount of $15,984,699, with Radnor Township School District's portion being $293,907, $281,045 of which goes for the Aston Fullcroft Half-Day Program, and $12,862 for the Special Education Technical Program. Do I have a motion to move this item forward?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Any comments or questions?
I did actually, it occurs to me, we all know what this is because we've done this year after year. But Mr. Pauling, would you mind just giving the public, there's a lot of money here, just 2 minutes for the public on how we get assessed and why we're contributing to other people's budgets?
Yeah, so really to sum it up is each of the sending school districts has a proportional share based on the number of students that we send. So that can fluctuate the cost as well as what their costs are. So that's how the costs are calculated for this particular budget. It's based on our share of students that we send to those programs.
Okay, so it's the number of students, is it based on how many we sent last year or how many we have enrolled for next year? It's kind of a rolling catch-up?
It's actually on a 3-year average of average daily membership, so it's on a 3-year rolling average.
Okay, thank you. I think it's helpful for people to know it is large amounts of money, why we're sending it somewhere else.
Absolutely, and I think it was in this school year that we had the Delaware County Intermediate Unit come and make a presentation. That's something we can consider doing every year for the community if they want to better understand what the Delaware County Intermediate Unit is all about and the different programs and services that we subscribe to. So thank you very much for that, Ms. Dunn, and we will at this point move into the roll call since the motion's been put forth and seconded. Mr. Pauling, would you please do the roll call?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Duffy?
Yes.
Ms. Dunn?
Aye.
Ms. Goldman?
Aye.
Mr. Jubileer?
Aye.
Ms. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Solomon?
I abstain from this vote.
And Ms. Stern?
Aye.
Okay, 7 affirmative, 1 absent, and 1 abstain.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Pauling and Board. That moves us to item on the agenda 8.03, Appointment of Trustees for the Delaware County Community College Board of Trustees. The recommended action is that the board votes to appoint Katrina Robinson as trustee to the Delaware County Community College Board of Trustees. At the March 21st, 2023 Finance Committee meeting, administration was given direction to recommend the appointment of Katrina Robinson to fill the vacancy that will expire on June 30th, 2028 as trustee to the Delaware County Community College Board of Trustees. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. Any comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, this is also a roll call vote. Thank you, Mr. Pauling.
Okay, Ms. Duffy?
Yes.
Ms. Dunn?
Aye.
Ms. Goldman?
Aye.
Mr. Jubileer?
Aye.
Ms. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Solomon?
Yes.
And Ms. Stern?
Aye.
Okay, 8 affirmative, 1 absent.
Thank you, Mr. Pauling. And that moves us to our consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussion on these items. With the consent of all board members, they are therefore grouped and approval is given in one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any item, the board president will move it to an appropriate place on the agenda. Does anybody have any items that they'd like to pull this evening?
I would like to pull 13.02 and 14.01.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Solomon. Is there anything else to be pulled?
Yes, I'd like to pull 1503.
15.03, and I do believe...
At the request of the administration, I'll pull 14.02, please.
Thank you. Looking for that. Okay, is there anything else anybody would like to pull from consent? Okay, then can I get a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda from item 10.01 to 16.02, except for 13.02, 14.01, 14.02, and 15.03? Who would like to make a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Monahan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye, and Mr. Moore included. Trying to see around these partitions. It looks like there is an 8-0 approval of those with Dr. Babson absent. All right, thank you. We will then go back to these items that were pulled. 13.02, Ms. Solomon.
Yeah, I pulled this item, and before I basically state what I'm going to do, I want to thank everybody who worked on this. And I know every year it's a big puzzle, and there's conflicting tensions around time, and I wish we could just make up more time. I'm pulling this because I am not going to approve the proposal put forward, which is D as in dog. And I just want to say that I guess what it comes down to is I'm a traditionalist at heart, and my preferred calendar would be calendar B as in boy, and there's 2 main reasons that I support that. And the first one is that it's the post-Labor Day start, which is something that I believe in. I think our students are pressured too much, and I think they're pulled too many different directions, and I think that families and students really need some of that time in the summer. And so I think to push the start of school before Labor Day then pushes the start of sport earlier in August, and it just eats away at that precious time to regroup. So that's one reason.
And
I know that D also honors that. I
Okay,
think.
that's all. Just want to make
But,
sure you're aware that the also is
the other,
after Labor Day.
yes, the other, along with the lines of being a traditionalist, I guess, I support going along with the traditional Easter break or spring break, which in the past has followed the week between Palm Sunday and Easter. And I understand that some years it gets really late. And I work in education. I know how tired we all are by time that some years the spring break comes, you know, and I guess this year it will be late in April. But the reason I think it's important to stick with that. And this doesn't apply to everybody, but there are some families that have students, say you have a student at the DCIU and the rest of your kids are in district. In the past, we followed the DCIU calendar, and the DCIU has traditionally, and all Delaware County schools have followed that same break, where the spring break moves along with the Easter holiday. So that's one reason. Then your family would all have that week off to take the time together. But also for staff members, and I know this doesn't apply to everyone, and people have their own opinions, which I respect. But most school districts around here do follow this. In Delaware County, they do follow this. So if you are a teacher or staff member, you would have the spring break with your children who might go to Ridley or a different school in Delaware County, if we stick with our traditional calendar, which was really following the DCIU calendar, which meant that all of Delaware County was on the same calendar. So I won't be voting for this because my preferred calendar is calendar B as in boy for the reasons that I stated. And thanks for indulging me. And again, I respect everyone's, opinions on this and their hard work on this. And, we can have different opinions and still, have good reasons for thinking different things. I also, just as a ending to all this, I do support having all the religious holidays observed. I'm a big supporter of that, and so I just want to say I'm pleased that that's included in calendar B as well.
Ms.
Okay.
Goldman, could I move the
Yeah,
agenda
that's what I
item?
was just going to call. Is there anybody who would like to move the item that's on the agenda, and that would be calendar version D?
So moved.
Ms. Stern, is there a second for that?
Second.
Ms. Dunn, thank you. Any comments or questions before I call the vote on it?
I do have one.
Okay.
Ms. Solomon, I appreciate all the comments. One of the things that, I'm trying to look at lemonade a lot tonight, make some lemonade in a lot of places tonight. So one of the things that I think is great about the fact that we are actually talking about the 24-25 calendar is that I'm actually hoping some of the other school districts in the area, and I'm hoping the DCIU will take a look at the vote we take tonight, assuming that we go with calendar D, and will actually consider making a change, because to Ms. Duffy's point, in the years that we have a spring break that is very late, it's a long stretch from the winter break to the spring break. So I actually am hoping, we've been a leader in a lot of different ways in the last few years here in Radnor, and it might be time for this one to be given some thought by some other school districts and from the DCIU. So if this calendar D moves forward, I'm actually hopeful that this gives some of these other districts time to consider a similar change, which would then address some of the concerns that Ms. Solomon raised, which are good concerns. The upside of this calendar is that it might more closely match some of the area private schools, and we have families in our community that struggle with that when they have children in the area private schools and the calendar doesn't match Radnor. I believe this calendar is going to more closely match some of the area independent schools. So for some of our families, this might actually ease things up. But in any event, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment? Ms. Monahan?
Just briefly, in watching the curriculum meetings, I think that there has been a significant amount of due diligence on these calendars this year, more so than I think I've ever seen. And, I know, Mr. Bechtold, you want to come back to curriculum like next month and present another round of calendars. I support this calendar just for all the reasons mentioned. I mean, there was a committee, there was a survey, there was feedback on the website, there was a consideration of when Labor Day falls, there's a consideration of where Easter falls, a consideration of, spring break of other schools. So there was so much due diligence put into this calendar, and, I don't think there's any calendar that will make everybody happy, but the fact that we would have the advance notice of approving this tonight will provide ample opportunity for families to work with. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Monahan. Anybody else, or should I?
I'll just add one more
Ms. Duffy?
item to Ms. Monahan's list, was that also when it's a testing calendar. May tends to be a heavy testing month for our students, PSSAs, as well as AP testing. And when our spring break is very late, the students come back, and when you talk about stress, they come back and then they are immediately, are in prep mode, and those test dates are right upon them. So this pacing is not just about needing a break earlier, but it's also a pacing when you look at the requirements on the, after spring break. So that's just one other item that I think we all considered.
And just lastly, I think it's important the community knows that we are now proposed to have the Monday after Easter off. And I think that's something that's new. We haven't generally, as a community in a district, we've had Good Friday off, but we haven't traditionally had the following Monday. I think that provides a nice opportunity for families to have that long weekend in addition to the earlier spring break.
Thank you, Mr. Jubileer. The only person who may not have commented would be Mr. Moore. Would you like to make a comment, or are we ready to call the vote?
Yes, Mrs. Goldman, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the members of the calendar committee who volunteered their time to contribute their thoughts to this so that we could have community input. And I'd certainly like to thank the administration for their hard work on this, most of all for the fact that we are approving this tonight more than a year in advance, so that there are no surprises about what it is we choose to do from here. Other than that, I have no comments on the substance and the merits of the motion that I've not already given. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. And since the item has been motioned and seconded, it's now time to call the vote. All those in favor of approving agenda item 13.02, which is the 2024-2025 administration recommended calendar, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Let's see. Aye. And Mr. Moore, you're going to have to chime in with your voice.
No.
No. Okay, so we haven't gotten there yet. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. All those opposed? Ms. Solomon, I can see you are stretching over the dais. I got that. And Mr. Moore, you're a no. So it's 6-2 is the final vote on the calendar for item 13.02. 6 in favor, 2 not in favor. All right, thank you very much. And that we're going to move on now to item 14.01, which was also pulled by Ms. Solomon.
Yes, I pulled this item for the reasons that I stated in, I think it was the Finance or the Facilities Committee. It's really just making a statement on behalf of Radnor taxpayers and citizens. I just don't agree with these change orders that come month after month. I understand the process is sort of set up so that we take the lowest bidder and then the lowest bidder comes back to us month after month for more money. I just don't understand the game, and I don't agree with supporting this. So I will be voting no on this.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Solomon. Would anyone like to move this item?
So moved.
Ms. Dunn, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Monahan. Any other comments before we call the vote on item 14.01? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. And Mr. Moore, if you are in favor, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ayes, any nays? Ms. Solomon, okay, so 14.01 ends up with a 7-1 vote. Thank you very much. Moving on to 14.02, and that was pulled by the administration. So is anybody interested in moving it, or are we going to not approve?
So I technically pulled it, and I just, I know he's left, but I wanted to thank Mr. Bajukas for that really moving tribute to Emlyn Tennell. I know we all know him generally as the statue and the field, but I really appreciated what he said. And I don't think I have criticized, but I have asked why, when so many things have his name on them, why one more thing? I appreciate that the administration wants to be thoughtful about the naming of the street at our high school, but I hope that you'll continue to keep Emlyn Tennell as someone we may want to honor on that street.
And
Okay, Dr. Batchelor?
Yeah, and I just want to, because often sometimes I'll respond to public commenter and just echo what Mrs. Dunn said, and appreciate Mr. Bajoukas's comments, and also just say from an administrative standpoint, we've also, you know, we're juggling also, there's a street in the town with that name already. There was also some alumni who wrote to us with some other suggestions as well. That street was also originally 2 street names. So all those discussions started to happen. As those started to happen and being asked questions administratively, we thought, let's bring this forward for facilities for next month, you know, and we will discuss it next month. Tunnel is still an option as we discuss this next month, as we look at other things going on, and we also look at how we're honoring, and I'm really excited, thanks to the work of Mr. Bazoukas. I know in our Spirit Gallery, we're going to be honoring Mr. Tunnel and his contributions, not only to our community, but also as a World War II hero, and also as a football hero, and as a son of Radnor.
Thank you, Dr. Batchelor. So in the absence of anybody wanting to move this forward, I'm just double checking, that item, we will move on then to item 15.03, which was pulled by Ms. Stern.
Yes, I pulled this because I want to get a clarification. I'm going to put forth, I will be putting forth the motion and supporting it. But if I could just clarify, on the policy itself, it says that we are considering a name change of the policy. And I just want to clarify that once this policy passes tonight, because it is for adoption, the new name of it will be disposal of district-owned property, as is written on the second read. So Dr. Hand, if you could just confirm that, because it doesn't say it in the agenda.
That is correct. Upon passing tonight, it will be called disposal of district-owned property. We kept the original name because that's the current name of the policy for public reference. But after tonight's passing, the title will be disposal of district-owned property.
Great. So with that clarification, I'm happy to make a motion to move this forward.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. And would anyone else like to second?
Second.
Mr. Jubileer, any comments or questions? All right, with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving item 15.03, please indicate by raising your hand, and Mr. Moore saying aye, or if so inclined.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's an 8-0 unanimous vote for item 15.03. All right, and that will bring us to the next part of our agenda, which is reports from board liaisons and community announcements. So to start us off, we'll have Ms. Solomon give us any update on the Delaware County Community College.
Well, we already voted on what I was going to report on, so, which is, there was a small group of the liaisons that are made up of the 15 school districts in Delaware County, who interviewed the person that we voted on to be a new member of the board at the community college. And so there were 5 candidates that we interviewed, and this was the candidate selected. I endorsed this candidate. And there's no other information from the college.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. And Mr. Moore, the Delaware County Intermediate Unit.
Thank you. I will defer report until the next meeting.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Jubileer, the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council.
Yes, the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council met on March 8th. In addition to legislative updates, we discussed some key legislation that has either been introduced or reintroduced, including legislation to address teacher shortages, a firefighter training program, a proposal that would change, proposed legislation that would change school district budget calendars, which I know our district and Mr. Pauling and Mr. Kearney and Dr. Kearney and others have an interest in, and we'll be addressing next meeting to have a change of the calendar for school budgets to be approved by 1 month later. Also, there's legislation that would actually mandate a schools start after Labor Day. We are doing it so far, but there's legislation that would actually mandate it across the state. We also discussed the upcoming legislative breakfast that you're all invited to. All districts, school board members are invited to on May 19th. And otherwise, we'll be meeting next on April 12th.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jubileer. And board members, that invitation to the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council breakfast, and administrators as well, should be coming out very shortly. And we hope that as usual, as many of you who can attend will do so. It's going to be in person at the DCIU, as Mr. Jubileer mentioned. And the Pennsylvania School Boards Association report is typically given by Dr. Babson, but since he's not here, we talked and I said that I'd just mention a couple quick things on his behalf, one of which was touched on a little bit earlier by Mr. Jubileer, and that is that PSBA's annual Advocacy Day is going to be taking place on April 18th, and we hope that our very active public education advocacy-oriented board will participate. It's virtual. It's not the trip to Harrisburg, which is unfortunate in some respects, but on the other hand, hopefully the virtual decision on the part of PSBA makes it a little bit easier for school board members to attend. I know at this point in time at 10 a.m. there's going to be a meeting of the 4 Delaware County state senators. So if you're looking for what time of the day this might occur that would be relevant to us, 10 a.m. is going to be the 4 Delaware County state senators together in one meeting with all of their constituent board members and administrators. Administrators are welcome too. And at 9:30 a.m. it looks like Representative Borowski will be meeting with her constituents, which isn't just Radnor, but she also has constituents in Marple Newtown and Rose Tree Media. So if you wanted to mark off your calendars and you think you might be able to fit that into your day, there is a registration link that we can distribute, or you probably have seen in your PSBA emails, and we would really enjoy, I think our representatives too would like to see as many of us as possible to have conversations about how they can best support public education and in particular the needs of their constituent districts. So just wanted to flesh that out a little bit for everybody, and also mention, if you haven't seen it, there were typically sectional meetings that we're invited to that have different topics for the particular section we're in as designated by PSBA, and those have been reformatted to become parts of other existing events and will not be as they were originally scheduled to be in the upcoming weeks. One has been incorporated into next year's School Leadership Council conference. One is going to be a virtual event. So if you have any questions about those, please don't hesitate to reach out to Dr. Babson or me or even Mr. Jubileer, who keeps up pretty much with PSBA. And that's what I have for the PSBA, Pennsylvania School Boards Association Liaison Report. Any questions? Ms. Duffy?
Not a question, but I have another community announcement.
I was just going to call for any additional community announcements, and I'll start with you.
I just wanted to alert the community to mark their calendars that on Friday, April 28th, from 6:30 to 9:30, the Radnor A Better Chance House will be having their annual soiree. It always proves to be a wonderful night, so I hope people consider joining us. It will be hosted at Debbie and Jake Lofton's house, and the invitation will be going out shortly, so look in your inbox. We'll say that if anyone in the community is interested in a sponsorship or donating any auction items, you can reach out to Caroline Stewick, who is the event chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duffy. Does anybody else have any community announcements they'd like to share this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into board announcements. And our April meeting schedule will be as follows. On Tuesday, April 11th at 5 o'clock, we will have our policy committee meeting. At 6 o'clock, it will be our finance committee meeting. And at 7 o'clock on April 11th, it will be our facilities committee meeting. All of those committee meetings will be held in the ground floor conference room of the Radnor Township School District Administration Building, which is at 135 South Wayne Avenue. And then the next week, Tuesday, April 18th, 2023, at 5 o'clock, there will be our curriculum committee meeting. That will also be held in the ground floor conference room at the Radnor Township School District Administration Building, 135 South Wayne Avenue. And then Tuesday, April 25th, we will be back in this room at 7 o'clock for our regular business meeting. And all of these meetings are open to the public, and feel free to join us if you're so moved to do so. At this point in time, is there any public comment in the room? All right, seeing none, I am going to, I guess early, wish everybody a very happy, healthy, and wonderful spring break, and call for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
So hold on, this is always the time where it's hard to keep track because everybody's eager to motion. I think I heard Ms. Solomon go for the first motion. Who would like to second?
Second.
Ms. Dunn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Moore, you good to adjourn? Okay, that's an 8-0 motion to adjourn. Have a great night, everybody.